Alright, welcome back to our discussion of Excel. Today we're going to work on dealing with some formulas. We're going to continue practicing formulas, and we're going to work on some functions. The functions that we're going to concentrate on are sum, average, minimum, and maximum. So let's get started. If you have the Drake file, go ahead and open up that workbook, and we'll get going on here. So what we're doing in this exercise is we're going to create a budget. Now, this might be something good for you to do at home too. You can always use it. You take this and copy it and set it up and change it for your own personal item once we get going. Alright, so let's get started here. We're going to drop down to, on the budget, well, let's do documentation first so we stay in our good habit. Put our name in the author and our date in there. And if you notice, it's to create this monthly budget so that they can come up with a savings plan for a future purchase, which happens to be a house. So we'll be working with this for several different videos. So now we will click over on our budget tab and come back here. If you notice, we've got some things that are pre-filled for us and some nice formatting. I always like formatted things. And where do we go from here? So, first thing we want to do is go down to cell C32, which is right here, and we're going to enter the formula to sum the items or the expenses. So, if you remember, the easy way to do this is to come over here on our Home tab in the editing group and click Auto Sum, and it will automatically pick that range for us. You double check, make sure that's the range we want. It is, and we simply hit enter. Alright, let's click that cell once again, and we're going to copy it. So if you remember, we can copy it a lot of different ways, but my favorite way is to come up here on the clipboard and say copy. Now I can select where I want it to go, which is going to be this range here. So that's D32 to N32. And we simply paste it. So we can check this range and make sure that we have it. If we look, yep, that's column E, that's column G, that's column I. And as you notice, if we look up here in our function box in our formula bar, you can see it says equals the sum and then our formula I-22 to I-31, which is perfect with what we want to do. Because at that time when we're doing this, we'll click on that for you one more time. We're using relative cell references, if you noticed. So when I copied it, it looked at those where that formula was coming from, and it chose the relative range for the new set of cells. So it's a handy thing that we can do using that. But sometimes we would also want to use an absolute formula, or excuse me, an absolute cell reference, which is what we'll do here shortly as well. Alright. Let's go up here to the top, and we're going to enter some numbers here. So we're going to enter 2800 and 1300. Come over here and say 2100 and 2600. So those represent the monthly income of Diane and Glenn during that period. Let's go ahead and calculate our totals. So we can calculate this in several different ways. We can say equals, we can click on Diane, and then we can click on Glenn, and we can say that. To copy it, we're going to copy it over here next door. So we will click on that cell to make it active, hit copy, go to where we want it, and paste. So you can see there once again how it went from D5, and now it's using the relative reference to D6 or E6. Alright. The next thing I want to do is we need to fill in the income down here in cell 19, 20, and 21. So I could type 2800 here, but if Diane's monthly income changes, then I don't want to change it everywhere. So it's easier to use a relative cell reference and do that. So if I say equals and Diane, right, D5, and Glenn's is 1,300. And then of course we can calculate our total using our auto sum, C19 and 20. So that gives us here. Now look what happens if I grab these three things, because it's the same for the school year, which is January, February, March, April, and May. If I grab these and I copy, I didn't want to. We're going to copy them, and now we're going to, if we paste them over here in this range, look what happens. Well, we know that that's not true, so let's undo it. And here's the reason, here's the problem. Because when we were pulling this cell, right now, if we say, yes, Diane is D5, right? Which is true, she's right here. But when it's over in February, March, and April, I also wanted to pull from that same cell. The only way to do that is to make this cell what we call an absolute cell reference. So every time we do something here, we're gonna make an absolute. So let's change that. So we're gonna say equals. We're gonna click on D5 again. Now we can make an absolute cell reference by hitting the F4 button at this point. And you'll notice that it puts the $ in front of the D and in front of the 5. That means it's always going to refer back to that cell. And hit enter. We'll do the same thing for this one here. And F4, and now we have that again. Now let's copy and paste it. So we're going to select our little range. We're going to copy it. Where do we want it to go? We're going to want it to go here, and we also want it to go over here in September to December, right? So a non-adjacent range. Remember, you're going to hit that control button to do so. Now look what happened. That is perfect. Alright, let's try doing it for doing the summer one, right? So we're going to say equals Diane's summer rate, make it absolute by hitting the F4 key and enter. We need Glenn's summer rate equals his rate, the F4 button, and equal. Let's total them. And now we can select these three items in June, copy them, grab our new range, and paste. That was pretty easy, wasn't it? Did anybody get lost or confused? Well, if you do, just pause this, rewind it, and go back and look again. See what you might have missed, okay? Alright, what else do we have here? I think that that's all for our income at the moment. That makes sense. So let's go up here and let's work with some basic functions. We've done some formulas and functions, so now let's use them a little bit more. So we're going to click in F9, and we're going to click on the Formulas tab on our ribbon. Once we do that, we can look in the function library. We're going to choose the math and trig, and we're going to choose sum. Yes, we've been choosing the sum from other places, haven't we? But this is another way. This one shows us the function argument, where we have to do a little bit of work to do this. So it's going to say the number 1. You'll notice here on our function argument we have something that's bold and something that's not bold. Whenever you have the bolded area, that means you must put something in there. If it is not bolded, it is not necessary. However, there are some circumstances where you will want to do that because it does change your response. Okay, so from here we have our cursor sitting in this area. We simply come down, we're going to grab all of the income totals, which is line 21, starting with column C and goes over to column N. And we select it, and you'll notice it puts that range up here for me. I say OK, and I have a total of 51,000. Alright, let's repeat that again. Let's do it for the total expenses. So click on total expenses. We'll scroll down so we can see our expense line. Go to this math and trig again. Find our sum. Oh, sum. Here we go. Scroll down. Grab our total line and say OK. Not too tough, right? What happens if I don't know what the name of the function is? Well, we can do that too. So let's calculate the monthly average this time. In our monthly average, what we're going to do is this. We don't know what the name of that function is. Really, I do, but I'm not going to. So we would come over here on our formula bar and we would say insert function. We can type, you see this black area here, we can type a description in there and it will help us find it. So if we say calculate an average value, and then we say go. These values in this box down here are all types of things that will do an average. But the one that we want is that first one called average. So we simply say OK. And if you notice, once again, now it's going to tell us what? We have to enter another range of numbers, right? Because remember, an average is more than one thing. So we're going to come down here and we want the average income. So we're going to select all of our row of income numbers. And then we say OK. Let's do it again for our expenses. Same thing. Insert function. Oh, look at that. It tells us the most recent one that we've used. So we can simply select average, and we have it again. We'll drop down here, grab all of our expense totals, and now we have our monthly average. So we've learned two different ways so far of looking up formulas, either going to the function library or insert function. There's another way. I can also, if I click in the monthly minimum box here for our income, I can say equals. Remember, that tells us that we're using a formula or a function. And then if I type the beginning of it, because I know it starts with M, so I can say M. Now that brings up every function that starts with the letter M. I can type the I, and that does the same thing. Just like when we were doing city and state before on cell references, well, we can do that here too. So MI, and I want minimum. Ah, there's my minimum. And you see it returns the smallest number in a set of values. So hit your tab key here to select it. And now we can enter our range. So we're going to enter our range. We want that same range, that total income line. Select it and press your enter key. Let's try that one more time. Let's go down to the minimum, monthly minimum on expenses. Equals MIN, tab key, select my range, and enter. That was pretty easy, wasn't it? I'll let you get caught up here for a moment. Alright, now let's pretend we're really good at functions. We don't need all those helper things. We can type our function directly in here too. So this time we're going to do the maximum. And we know that it's max. So we say equals max, parenthesis, and we know what our cell range is because we've been using it. So we can say C21 to what? N21, and close our parentheses and enter. That was pretty easy. Let's try it on the maximum. Let's try it one more time. So equals max, open parentheses. We're going to use C32 to N32. And if you notice what it does when I type that in there, it puts this little blue box around here. So that verifies the range that you had, so you can double check yourself. And that is our correct range. Alright, now if you remember, we talked about why I didn't want to enter $2,800 here in Diane's income, and we put the 28 up here. Well, that's because she just got a raise. So let's change it to $3,100. And you'll notice that when we entered $3,100 up here in the monthly income box for her, it automatically changed her income for those months accordingly. That's why we do it this way. Alright, let's go just a little bit further here. So let's go over to K5, which is our savings account, and we're going to say we're starting out with $4,000. It's a nice even number, isn't it? And We don't have anything in the savings account for our house yet. And then we'll enter a formula here to calculate that total. Very simply, the two cells plus in that. So we have $4,000. Alright. We're going to play around with some cash flow now. We're going to calculate the net cash flow. So let's scroll down to this area down here. We're going to select the range A33 and B33. We're going to merge and center them. Do you remember how to do that? Of course you do. It's on the Home tab, the Alignment group, and we say Merge and Center. And then we're going to call this Net Cash Flow. And press Enter. Alright, so drop over here to C33, and we're going to enter a formula here, which is basically what? We're going to take our income minus our total income minus our total expenses. So our 4,400 minus our total expenses, which is C32. You'll notice that's a negative number. Not a good thing, right? So just in case we have negative numbers, let's go ahead and format this so that it gives us kind of an indicator. So we'll add some conditional formatting here. So reselect your C33, come over here to conditional formatting, and we're going to do things that are less than. Because we want to know anytime it's less than 0, we want it to be red. So we know it's red. And simply say OK. We'll click somewhere else, and we can check that. That was very nice and very handy, wasn't it? Alright, let's grab our C33 cell one more time, and we're going to copy this all the way across to here. You know, we've been using our copy and paste button, but we can also use something called a fill handle, and it's right here. If you notice, there's that black dot down in that corner. If we do it, our cursor changes to a plus sign, and we simply grab it and we drag it across. And if you notice, it brings our formatting with us as well as our formula. So we can double check it here in a couple places. That can be really handy. It can save us a lot of time. Alright, now let's go work on this savings section. In C35, I'd like you to type the word JAN, which stands for January, right? We all know that. Well, here's a neat thing. Excel can do that for us. It can do a series for us. So if we come over here and we grab that fill and we drag it all the way over to here, look what we've got. We just did the months of the year. Boy, that was handy. Don't you think? I think so. Alright. Let's go up to, we're going to do copy some formatting here. If we copy the formatting of C18, I like the way that this looks, so we'll go over and grab all of that. You remember we can copy the formatting by clicking on Format Painter. So click on your Format Painter button, and we're going to drop back down to this boring January. Click on it, and now we've just copied that as well. Very good. Alright. Moving along, in C36, we're going to simply what? This is our starting balance, so we're going to say equals, and somewhere up here, right, remember, K5, we entered that $4,000, so we're going to say equals K5. So there's our starting balance on our savings. In C37, this is how many our deposits were. Well, what was our deposits? Our deposits are how much money we made. So we're going to say equals, and we're going to go up here to C21 for our total income. And we'll click that as well. Now we're down to C38, which is what? Those are our withdrawals. We want to say, so that would be our total expenses, right? So we say equals, and we grab this C32. Alright. We'll skip that 39 cell for right now. We'll come down here to 40. In C40, I want you to enter a formula. So we're going to enter the ending balance, which is this, right? We have our starting balance, which is C36, plus the deposits, minus our withdrawals and minus what we transferred to the home. So that's what it should look like. C36 plus C37 plus minus C38 and minus C39. Press enter. We should have a number of about 1940. That looks good. Okay. Let's make some borders around here. Maybe we'll just go down to here. So let's put borders around all those cells. Do you remember how to do that? Of course you do. On our Home tab, we go to the Font group and we have our Borders button. And we simply choose it and we say All Borders. Now we've got little pretty borders there. We can, let's see, if we go up here to C32, we can copy that cell formatting. Remember how we did that? So we're going to use the Format Painter. So we C32, Format Painter, come down here to 40, and it copies it. But I really don't want it to be pink. I want it to be blue. So let's change that formatting. The way we're going to do that is how? We're going to make our cell active, come over here to Cell Styles, and choose something that matches. So let's make it 60% accent 1. Yeah, I like that one. Okay. So we just kick somewhere else. So our sheet's looking pretty good these days. Alright, so let's fill the rest of this in. So the next piece that we want to do is select our range C36 to C40, and we're going to drag it over to February. There we go. But you'll notice that we have a starting balance of 0 here. That's not right, because really our starting balance in February is what the ending balance is of January. So we're going to change that formula, and we're going to say equals C40. Now we've got it right. Okay, so let's choose this row now, C36 to, or excuse me, D36 to D40, and then we're going to take it the rest of the way out for the table. Great. That looks much nicer. I like it when formulas fall in the right way. Alright, let's go up to the top of our page for a moment, and in cell L5, which is our ending savings account balance, we're going to enter a formula there, and we're going to say equals. We're going to come back down to our savings calculator, and we're going to say this one here. So that's N40. And push enter. If you notice, we have that. Alright. You guys doing okay so far? You hanging in there? Good. Alright, let's change sheets now. Let's go over here to the Home Savings Plan sheet for a moment. We're going to grab the cells B3 to G3, B to G. We're going to merge and center them, and then we're going to type in here savings deposits per month, and press enter. We're going to come back up here, and we want to do what? We want to make this a heading style 2. So if you remember that, we can go to Cell Styles, and if we look at heading style 2, simply click it, and it looks a little bit different. Alright, over here in A4, we're going to enter the word months. And then we want to bold it, so you can either Control B to bold it, or click on your bold up here in your font group. In B4, we're going to enter the number 500, not that, 500, and in C4 we're going to say 600. So we've entered the first two items in a series, right? We can increase that series. If we go here, we select both of them, and we go back out the range, it will automatically fill in a series of numbers for us based upon what we've done. That's very handy. Let's come over here to A5, and we're going to say 12, 24, and 36 for 1, 2, and 3 years. Okay? Let's do some more formatting. So we'll grab this range here, and this range over here, and we're going to call these input. So if we go on cell styles, we can find input, and that gives it just a better definition. Alright, in B5 we're going to do what? We're going to do some math. So $500 times 12 months is what we're going to do. So equals A5 times 500. Now, if I copied that the way it is right now, it would be a really funny formula. So we need to do a mixed reference here, because every time we pull it, we want it to pull from the same place. So we want to make sure that this pulls from the A row, so there's our dollar sign, and we want it to pull from what? From the 4. Okay, so we're using a mixed cell reference here, and that's why we only have it locked for a certain column in a certain direction. So if you'll look here, we're looking at, we have A5, which is our 12 months, right, times B4, which is our $500. So when we copy this cell, we want to make sure that we copy it only from this A5 side, and that we're only copying the number of months. Okay, so that's why we set it up that way. So we can hit enter at this point. Oh, it's unhappy. Why is it unhappy? Because we have A4 here. Let's change that to B4. There we go. So you can see our result is $6,000, which is 12 times 500. So let's copy that across this row. We'll go ahead and copy it to from our B5, and we're going to copy it to C5 to G5. So we're going to grab it right across here. And if you don't believe me on the math, you can look, but 12 times 1,000 is 12,000. So that's very, very easy. Now we've already got this whole row selected, so why don't we just finish it? If we grab that corner again, we can come down here and we can fill out the other parts of it. So look at that. We've done it all in a matter of moments. And we can click somewhere else just so you can see the results here. That looks pretty nice over here. All right. Let's go back over to our budget sheet. And we're going to say in L10, where's our friend L10? Here we go. We want to use $800. I think that's a good point to stop for right now. Do you? Or shall we go just a little bit further? All right, I'm with you. A little bit further. All right, let's drop down to our cell C39. Remember, we didn't have anything here. And we're going to enter the formula, or the cell reference, L10. So equals, come back up here to our L10. Now we want that to be an absolute reference, so we're going to hit that F4 and enter. Now what can I do? So now you'll notice that my total is now 1140 here too, isn't it? So if I click on what? C41, I can say equals, that's our starting balance on our house account. Oh, that's not very good. That's 0. So K6. And then we're going to say in C42, that's going to equal what? That's going to equal the amount that we're transferring to our house, so that's C39. And then in C43, that's the simple one. We're going to add those two things up. This one plus this one. So now we know how much our ending balance is each month. So if we select C38 to C40, let's use our format painter and we'll copy that formatting. And we're going to copy it right down here to the C41 group. So that looks much better there too. Alright, Let's change the fill of our C43 to something different. So we'll go over to cell styles and let's make it orange. So we'll make it 60% orange. Matches that line item just a little bit better, right? Alright, let's finish this little section out. So we're going to click on C39 and we're going to drag that all the way across so we have that table filled out. Now I want you to select C41 to C43, that range, and we're going to copy it. So grab our friend copy. We're going to paste it over here in the D side. And just like before when we had to change that starting balance number, we're going to say equals and grab the ending balance of the month before. So now we have that. And now we can reselect this range of D41 to 43. And what? We can drag it across and finish that out. So at the end of the time we should have $9,600. Alright, we left a couple blanks up here at the top now too. So let's go up here to what? Let's go up to L6. Oh, our ending balance here. So that we have an ending balance now. So we could say equals, scroll back down, and that's N43, right? And then in L7 we can now do this math as well. So we could say equals and add these two numbers together, and that tells us our savings account balance. Excellent job. We'll finish this spreadsheet up here shortly, but that's all for this one. And it was a long video, but I think it's worthwhile. I'll see you in class.